I've been eating pretty, how I've been, normally eating, and then maybe I'll go back and track one day just to kind of test where I'm at, right? And then just continue on. So those are, I think, the biggest, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but the biggest takeaway from that is just like, doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I think that the best approach is not going from tracking every day for a year to not tracking at all. It's like, all right, how do I work my way back to this? Or how do I work my way to this and do it in a way that's smart and strategic so that I have control, right? And so that I feel in control, and so that I'm not, ending up where I was 2 years ago or something like that. So that would be a few tips that I think. But something that I did think about that's I want to just kind of make sure that this is said too, and this is a mistake that I made. I think people are introduced to tracking when they do have a fat loss goal, right? Or a weight loss goal. And so they pick up tracking, they learn tracking within that fat loss goal, and they maybe achieve that result. And then when they get to their goal, their end goal, they're like, oh, okay, I made it, I'm here, so I'm just going to stop tracking. That, I feel, is a mistake in itself, because then that's when you have that kind of switch where it's like, okay, so I can stop tracking, and then maybe you do start to eat some other foods that you weren't eating when you were in the fat loss phase, because you're like, okay, I hit my goal, so now I can kind of eat a little bit more of this and maybe a few more licks of this, and I'm gonna stop measuring my peanut butter and things like that. And then they start to add up, and then you start to actually get back into a surplus, and so you gain the weight back. You get to the point where like, oh crap, like I stopped tracking and I went to intuitive eating, and then I gained all the weight back. And then that's where we start again, and then we have the fear of like, oh man, like I can never do that again, right? What if you hit your fat loss goal, and now instead of stop tracking, you continue to track for a few months till you really balance out into that maintenance, right? And you really find a spot where you feel super comfortable and you've hit your goal, but you've been able to maintain your goal, because that's the hardest part of fat loss, is actually the maintenance part afterwards. So really the diet part of things, and this is something that I've really had a lot of different perspectives on. It's like, the diet doesn't end when you hit your fat loss goal. The diet ends 6 months later when you've been able to maintain that for 6 months. And then it's like, all right, let's start to now I have all these habits built, these different food habits maybe that I didn't have before, in terms of really focusing on those whole foods, those nutrition foods. So I'm really intuitive with that. And that's part of that's what I crave now, because I'm over the processed packaged chips and things like that, maybe once in a while, whatever. But like, that's not part of my everyday. I don't have that in my house, in my environment, right? So now it's like, okay, I've been able to maintain this for a while. So now I'm going to start with it, like we said, with the intuitive eating, and maybe I don't track one meal, or I don't track one day of the week, and I kind of trickle that back down, or I start to just track protein and things like that. Because then you've kind of built up this, not only the confidence in being able to maintain the results you've gotten, but now you have more of a idea of those portion sizes that maybe you're consuming now at maintenance that maybe were a little bit smaller during your fat loss phase, right? Because we know that when you're in a fat loss phase, you're in a deficit, right? You're consuming less calories than you need to maintain. So we know that if you're looking to maintain now, you're going to increase, we need to increase your calories a little bit, right? So I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, is that they stop tracking right when they hit their goal, versus stop tracking after they've been at maintenance for a while, and they can kind of solidify that goal. And then that's where the magic happens, right? Because you're not going to rebound. You're not going to, be like, oh, I'm at maintenance, I'll hit my goal, so I can have this. Now I can start bringing chips into the house or ice cream into the house, and pray that I don't think about it at 11 o'clock at night when I'm watching Netflix. I mean, I'm just going to say that's where I think the intuitive side of intuitive eating can be a little misleading in that regard, because and how you define it too, right? Because and the way that our environment is right now, and our food industry is right now, like the way that they manufacture these foods to be so hyper palatable and literally change our brain's chemistry to want to eat more of them when we start to eat them,